Part 1. Arrival and Rejection. The air was thick with the scent of pine and diesel as Ellen Harper stood at the bus depot in Willow Creek, Wyoming, her hands gripping two worn suitcases. Her heart pounded with a mix of hope and dread. For 8 months, she had poured her soul into letters exchanged with James Thornton, a man who had promised her a future as his wife. But when he finally saw her, his face twisted with disappointment. At 42, Ellen was, in his eyes, too old to be the bride he'd imagined when he placed that ad in a Chicago newspaper. As the Greyhound bus rumbled away, leaving her stranded in this unfamiliar town, Ellen fought to keep tears at bay. 3,000 miles from her modest Chicago apartment, with barely enough money for a return ticket, she wondered if this rejection was her punishment for believing in second chances. The midday sun scorched her auburn hair, now streaked with silver, as she watched James's pickup truck vanish down Main Street's dusty stretch. He hadn't even offered her a ride. Just half an hour ago, she'd stepped off the bus, her stomach fluttering with anticipation, expecting to meet the kind, widowed rancher who'd written poetic letters about building a life together under Wyoming's endless sky. Instead, James, a burly man with a ruddy complexion, had scrutinized her face, his eyes flicking between her and the photograph she'd sent months earlier. "You're not Ellen," he'd snapped, his voice cold. The woman in that picture was younger. Ellen touched her cheek, self-conscious. "The photo was taken 5 years ago," she admitted softly. "I wrote in my letters that I'm 42. James's face darkened. "You look closer to 50. I was clear, I want a wife who can still bear children." His words hit like a slap, sharp and humiliating. Now, standing alone on the cracked sidewalk, Ellen felt the weight of curious glances from passers-by. In her tailored navy dress and sensible flats, she was unmistakably an outsider, abandoned in a town where everyone knew everyone. "Ma'am, you all right?" The deep voice startled her. Ellen turned to see a tall man with piercing green eyes and silver hair that gleamed in the sunlight. He wore a faded denim jacket despite the heat, his boots scuffed from years of hard work. "I'm fine," she said, though her trembling voice betrayed her. The man's weathered face softened with concern. "You don't look fine. You look like someone who could use a coffee and a kind ear." Ellen hesitated. She'd just been burned by trusting a stranger in Willow Creek. But something in his steady gaze made her want to believe in decency again. "I'm Nathan Brooks," he said, offering his name with a simple nod. "I run Brooks Haven Ranch about 20 miles out of town." "Ellen Harper," she replied, her Chicago accent sharp in her ears. "And coffee sounds." "Wonderful." Nathan's smile was warm, easing the tightness in her chest. "Dolly's Diner is just up the street. Best brew in the county, but don't tell Mabel at the gas station I said that." For the first time since arriving, Ellen felt a flicker of relief. She nodded, and Nathan reached for her suitcases. "Let me," he said, the small gesture nearly undoing her composure. Part 2. A warm welcome. Dolly's Diner was a quintessential Wyoming gem, red checkered tablecloths, cracked vinyl booths, and the comforting aroma of apple pie and coffee. Locals nodded to Nathan as he guided Ellen to a quiet corner booth, sensing her need for privacy. A waitress, mid-50s with a name tag reading June, approached with a coffee pot. "Nathan Brooks, twice in one day." "I'm buying a lottery ticket," she teased, then turned to Ellen. "And who's this?" "Ellen Harper," Nathan answered smoothly. "She's new in town and needs some of your coffee and maybe a slice of that fresh pie." June's smile was genuine. "Peach cobbler, just out of the oven." As June poured coffee and left to fetch pie, Nathan studied Ellen across the table. "So," he said bluntly, I'm guessing James Thornton's why you're standing alone at the depot, looking like your world just collapsed. Ellen nearly choked on her coffee. You know him. Everyone knows everyone in Willow Creek, Nathan said with a grimace. Saw his truck at the depot when you arrived. Didn't take a genius to figure out what happened when he peeled out and left you with your bags. Ellen set her cup down, fighting the urge to crumble. I answered his ad, she said, opting for honesty. We wrote for months. He seemed kind in his letters. Nathan's expression hardened. James can spin a good tale when it suits him. His wife left him 4 years ago. Not surprised he's trying the mail-order bride route now. Mail-order bride, Ellen echoed with a bitter laugh. Sounds like I stepped out of a Wild West novel. Modern twist on an old story, Nathan shrugged. Folks still get lonely, no matter the century. June returned with 2 slices of pie, the warm peach aroma tempting despite Ellen's turmoil. Enjoy, she said with a wink before bustling off. Ellen stared at her plate, feeling exposed. I should have known better. At my age chasing a fairy tale, Nathan's fork paused. Your age? What, early 40s? 42, she confirmed. He chuckled, a deep sound that drew glances from nearby tables. I've got a decade on you, Ellen. If you're too old, I'm practically ancient. Despite herself, Ellen smiled. He said he wanted children. Nathan's humor faded. And he didn't mention that in his letters. He did, Ellen admitted. I said I was open to adoption. I thought, she trailed off, embarrassed by her naivety. Nathan shook his head. James doesn't want kids. He wants a trophy wife who will cook and clean for free. His loss. Ellen touched her hair, suddenly aware of the gray strands she'd stopped dyeing. A year ago, when she lost her job as an English professor at a small Chicago college, she'd also lost the energy to maintain appearances. The recession had gutted humanities departments, and at 41, she'd been deemed overqualified for every job she applied for. I don't have a place to stay, she confessed. The next bus to Chicago isn't until tomorrow. Nathan considered this. The Willow Inn's decent, clean, fair rates. I don't have much money, Ellen admitted, hating the vulnerability. I spent most of my savings getting here. Something shifted in Nathan's eyes, not pity but understanding. My sister, Clara, runs a bed and breakfast just outside town, he said. It's not fancy, but the views are unbeatable, and she always keeps a room ready for guests. She's been alone since her husband passed 6 years ago and loves company, especially someone who'd appreciate her book collection. She taught English before opening the B&B. Ellen felt a spark of connection at the mention of books. I taught American literature before my college downsized. Nathan's eyes lit up. Then you and Clara will hit it off. She's got first editions of Edith Wharton she treats like her children. Ellen smiled genuinely for the first time that day. My dissertation was on Wharton. Well, Nathan said, pushing aside his empty plate, that settles it. Part 3, A New Beginning. Clara Brooks' bed and breakfast, Sunset Pines, was a charming craftsman-style house painted sage green with white trim, nestled against the Bighorn Mountains. As Nathan's truck rolled up the gravel drive, Ellen felt a cautious hope that her journey might not have been a total mistake. Clara, a slender woman with Nathan's green eyes and a silver streak in her dark hair, greeted them on the wide porch. Well, look at this, she called, teasing. My reclusive brother with a guest. Is the world ending? Nathan rolled his eyes. Ellen, meet my insufferable sister, Clara. Clara, this is Ellen Harper from Chicago. She needs a place tonight. Clara's sharp gaze took in Ellen's weary appearance, but asked no questions. She stepped forward, hands outstretched. Any friend of Nathan's is welcome here, she said warmly. "Come in, I just baked a batch of rosemary bread, and you must be starving after that bus ride." The interior of Sunset Pines was cozy and inviting, with polished oak floors, eclectic rugs, and a library visible through a wide archway, its shelves brimming with books. "Nathan mentioned you're a literature professor," Clara said as she led Ellen to a kitchen fragrant with fresh bread. "He texted me while you were eating pie." Ellen glanced at Nathan, who looked slightly sheepish. "Just giving her a heads up," he explained. "I appreciate your kindness," Ellen said to Clara. "I can pay something for the room," Clara waved her off. "Nonsense. It's April, tourist season's weeks away. I've got empty rooms and could use the company." She sliced a loaf of bread and set out butter and local honey. "I don't mean to pry, but Nathan's vague text suggests you've had a rough introduction to Willow Creek." Ellen hesitated, but decided candor was easiest. "I came to marry a man I'd been writing to. When we met, he decided I wasn't what he wanted." Clara's knife paused, her eyes meeting Nathan's. "James Thornton," she said, not a question. Ellen nodded. "Word gets around fast. It does when someone advertises for a traditional wife with childbearing years in big city papers," Clara said with disgust. "He did the same thing 6 months ago with a woman from Ohio." She left in tears after 3 days. The revelation stung. "I see," Ellen said, heat rising to her neck. Nathan cleared his throat. "James doesn't speak for Willow Creek." "Far from it," Clara agreed, setting a plate before Ellen. "Most folks here judge people by their character, not their age." She shot Nathan a look Ellen couldn't decipher. "Some of us took longer to learn that." Nathan shifted uncomfortably. "I should get back to the ranch. New calf needs checking." He turned to Ellen. "You okay here with Clara?" His concern touched her. "Yes, thank you. I don't know what I'd have done without you." A faint flush colored Nathan's cheeks. "Just in the right place," he nodded to Clara. "I'll drop off Ellen's bus ticket tonight." "Her ticket?" Clara raised an eyebrow. "My treat," Nathan said firmly. "Least I can do after Willow Creek's lousy welcome." Before Ellen could protest, he tipped his hat and left, the screen door swinging shut. Clara sat across from Ellen, her expression thoughtful. "My brother doesn't usually talk to strangers," she remarked, pushing the honey closer. "He's been a loner since his wife, Sarah, died 8 years ago. Cancer. It was too late by the time they found it." Her voice softened with grief. Nathan blamed himself, though the doctors said it wouldn't have mattered. He buried himself in the ranch, only comes to town for supplies. Ellen felt a pang of empathy for the man who'd shown her such kindness. "I'm sorry," Clara studied her. "What about you? What made a Chicago professor answer a Wyoming rancher's ad?" Ellen took a sip of water before answering. "My life in Chicago fell apart. My college cut my department. My mother, who I'd cared for, passed away. My apartment was sold to developers." James's ad felt like a lifeline. "Brave," Clara said. Ellen laughed humorlessly. "Foolish, look where it got me." "The day's not over," Clara said with a knowing smile. Part 4, A Proposition. The late afternoon sun filtered through lace curtains, casting patterns across the quilted bed where Ellen had collapsed into a deep sleep. Voices downstairs roused her, and for a moment she expected her Chicago apartment. Reality hit as she sat up: James's rejection, Nathan's rescue, Clara's hospitality. The bedside clock showed she'd slept 3 hours. In the bathroom, Ellen winced at her reflection. The woman staring back looked exhausted, lines etched deeper by the day's events. She'd always thought herself decent-looking, strong features, warm hazel eyes. But today, she saw only the age that had deemed her unworthy. After freshening up and changing into a simple green dress she'd packed for a hoped-for dinner with James, Ellen followed the sound of laughter to the kitchen, now a sunroom with views of mountains glowing in the sunset. Clara stirred a pot of chili, while three women sat at a table, wine glasses in hand. Nathan leaned against a counter, a beer bottle dangling from his fingers, more at ease than earlier. He straightened when he saw Ellen. "There she is," Clara called. "I was about to wake you." Meet the Willow Creek Book Club, the only folks in town who think reading beats binge-watching hunting shows. The women welcomed Ellen warmly. There was Lillian Carter, the town librarian, a spry 60-something with cat-eye glasses. Monica Hayes, editor of the Willow Creek Chronicle, her gray curls framing a kind face. And Rachel Torres, the high school principal, whose sharp wit put Ellen at ease. "Clara says you're a Wharton scholar," Lillian said eagerly. "We're reading The Age of Innocence next month. Will you join us?" Ellen glanced at Nathan, whose expression was unreadable. "I'm heading back to Chicago tomorrow." A murmur of disappointment followed. "That's a shame," Rachel said. "We could use a fresh voice." Nathan cleared his throat. "About that bus ticket," he said, stepping forward. "There's a complication." All eyes turned to him, and Ellen's stomach nodded. "What do you mean?" "I was at Thornton's this afternoon," Nathan explained. "Picking up a tractor part." "Your second suitcase was on his porch," Ellen gasped. "I forgot it at the depot." "James grabbed it," Nathan confirmed. "Said he was checking for ID, but he'd already opened it." Ellen's heart sank, thinking of her journals, her mother's cameo, her cherished books. "It's in my truck," Nathan assured her. "Everything's there. But James is spreading lies, saying you misled him in your letters." Ellen's face burned. "That's not true. We know," Clara said, touching her arm. "James twists stories to suit himself." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Point is, he's made things tricky. The bus driver's his brother-in-law, and he's already spreading the tale you tried to scam James." "So I can't take the bus?" Ellen asked, dread rising. "You can," Nathan said. "But it'll be awkward." "Small towns." Clara exchanged a glance with her friends. "Or," Nathan continued, hesitating, "I have an offer." The room stilled. "My foreman quit last week," he said. "Family crisis in Nebraska. I'm struggling to manage the ranch alone, especially with calving season. I need help with the books, scheduling, correspondence, the business side. The job comes with a cabin on the ranch. It's small but private." Ellen stared, stunned. "You want me to work for you? You barely know me." "I know you're educated," Nathan countered. "You stayed composed today despite everything. And Clara says you managed budgets at your college." Ellen shot Clara a look, who shrugged. "We talked while you napped." "It's temporary," Nathan added. 3 months, through the busy season. Gives you time to plan instead of rushing back to Chicago with nothing." Monica leaned forward. "Perfect, Ellen. You could explore the area, maybe find something permanent. And join our book club," Lillian added. Ellen's mind raced. Her job was gone, her apartment lost, her savings depleted. What waited in Chicago? "Why would you do this?" she asked Nathan. "You don't owe me." His face remained steady, but his eyes softened. "I know what it's like when life derails. Sometimes you need a stepping stone to the next chapter." Rachel grinned. "That's the most poetic thing you've ever said, Brooks." Nathan flushed. "Keep that quiet. I've got a reputation." The women laughed, but Ellen stayed thoughtful. "Can I see the cabin first?" Nathan nodded, relieved. "Tomorrow morning." "It's simple, but the view's worth it." Clara clapped her hands. "Now that's settled, let's eat. Chili's ready, with cornbread to match." Part 5, settling in at Brooks Haven. The Wyoming morning dawned with a sky so vividly blue it seemed to pulse with promise. Ellen Harper had slept deeply in Clara's cozy guest room at Sunset Pines, the weight of the previous day's ordeal softened by exhaustion and the comfort of a feather bed. After a breakfast of Clara's homemade blueberry muffins and creamy yogurt, Ellen found herself in the passenger seat of Nathan Brooks' weathered Ford pickup, rolling out of Willow Creek on a road that wound alongside a sparkling creek. "Your sister's quite a character," Ellen remarked as the last houses of Willow Creek faded in the rearview mirror. Nathan chuckled, his hand steady on the wheel. "That's one way to put it. Clara's been wrangling people since she was 6, setting up book clubs for the neighborhood kids." "She said you don't come to town often," Ellen ventured, curiosity piqued about this reserved man who'd upended her plans to flee back to Chicago. Nathan's grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Not much need to. The ranch keeps me plenty busy, and you run it alone." "No family besides Clara, just me," he confirmed. "Had a few hands over the years. The good ones move on to their own spreads, and the rest. Ranching's not for everyone. My foreman, Mike, stuck around longest, 6 years. Ellen gazed out at the landscape unfolding beyond her window, golden grasslands giving way to stands of lodgepole pine and quaking aspen, the Bighorn Mountains drawing closer with each mile. "It must get lonely," she said before she could stop herself. Nathan was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't respond. Finally he spoke, his voice low. "After Sarah died, loneliness felt safer than the alternative." The raw honesty hit Ellen hard. Her own isolation, after losing her mother, her job, her home, had been a crushing weight, driving her to stake everything on James Thornton's letters. "I understand," she said softly. "When my mother passed and my job was cut, I felt invisible. James's letters. They made me feel seen again." Nathan's profile remained stoic, but he nodded. "Grief opens the door to things you'd normally question." They drove in companionable silence until Nathan turned onto a gravel road marked by a weathered sign reading Brooks Haven Ranch, etched with a simple mountain silhouette brand. "My granddad started this place in 1930, Nathan said, as they passed through a meadow dotted with grazing Angus cattle. "Dad took over in the 60s, and I got it in 97 when he traded Wyoming winters for Arizona golf courses." Around a bend, the main ranch house came into view, a sturdy 2-story structure of cedar logs and river stone, its wide porch wrapping around like an invitation. Nearby stood a red barn, a workshop, and a corral where horses grazed in the morning sun. "It's breathtaking," Ellen said, her voice hushed as she took in the scene. Behind the house, the bighorns rose in rugged majesty, their peaks still capped with spring snow. Nathan's face softened with pride. 3 generations strong. Not the biggest spread in the county, but it's good land. He parked and circled to open Ellen's door, a gesture she was beginning to see as instinctive. "Main house is that way," he said, pointing to a path through a garden just starting to sprout green. "But the cabin's over here." He led her along a flagstone path that curved through a grove of aspens. About 200 yards from the main house, nestled among the trees, stood a compact log cabin, its honey-colored wood glowing in the sunlight. A covered porch faced the mountains. "Built this when my folks were still here," Nathan explained, climbing the porch steps. "Dad and I were butting heads something fierce, and I needed my own space." He unlocked the door and stepped back to let Ellen enter first. The interior was simple but warm. A single room with a kitchenette in one corner, a stone fireplace on one wall, and furniture chosen for comfort. A plaid sofa, a sturdy oak table. 2 doors led off the main space. "Bedrooms there," Nathan pointed. "Bathrooms the other." It's basic, but the water's hot and the roof holds. Ellen moved to the windows, where the mountain view stretched unbroken to the horizon, wild and vast. "This is hardly roughing it," she said, genuinely impressed. "It's beautiful." Nathan looked pleased. Clara helped with the decor. "Left to me, it'd be all function, no heart." Ellen explored the small space, noting a bookshelf lined with Louis L. Amer westerns and Wyoming history books, a well-equipped kitchenette, and a surprisingly modern bathroom. The bedroom was cozy, with a queen bed draped in a patchwork quilt and windows framing the same stunning view. "The job," she said, returning to the main room where Nathan waited, leaning against the kitchen counter. "What would I be doing?" "Ranching's more paperwork than folks realize," he said, running a hand through his silver hair. "Breeding logs, vaccination schedules, supply orders, payroll for seasonal hands starting next month, buyer correspondence, equipment maintenance tracking." Mike kept it all in his head, and now I'm scrambling to piece together his system before things fall apart. "So I'd be organizing records?" Ellen asked. Nathan nodded. "And running the business side so I can focus on the livestock. There's an office in the main house where Mike worked. Computers old but functional." Ellen considered this. It wasn't unlike her role as department chair, streamlining systems, managing budgets, keeping chaos at bay. "And after 3 months, you'll have cash saved and time to plan your next move," Nathan said plainly. "No strings unless we both want otherwise." His straightforwardness was a relief after James's empty promises. "I'm not a rancher, Nathan. I've never been near cattle," he smiled faintly. "I'm not hiring you to rope steers, Ellen. I need your smarts, not your lasso. But if you want to learn ranching, I'll teach you." Ellen weighed her options. Return to Chicago with no job, no home, and dwindling funds, or seize this chance to rebuild, earn a living, and maybe uncover what she truly wanted next. "All right," she said at last. 3 months. Nathan's relief was subtle but clear. "Good. That's good." Part 6. A place in the community. Word spread like a prairie fire in Willow Creek. By the time Ellen and Nathan returned to Sunset Pines to collect her belongings, Clara had already fielded 4 calls from curious neighbors. "June from the diner called first," Clara reported, helping Ellen pack. "Wanted to know if it was true. My hermit brother hired the mail-order bride James Thornton dumped. Then Lillian called about you joining the book club. Rachel offered a guest lecture spot at the high school, and Monica wants you for a feature in the Willow Creek Chronicle." Ellen paused, folding a sweater. "A lecture?" "For AP English," Clara nodded. "Rachel's desperate for someone to teach Wharton or Hawthorne to her seniors. She'd pay the substitute rate." The idea of teaching again sent a thrill through Ellen. "I'd love that," Clara grinned. "I'll tell her. And don't sweat the gossip, it'll fade when the next drama hits." "I'm not sure what's weirder," Ellen admitted, "being gossiped about or how fast everyone's okay with me staying." Clara folded a skirt with practiced ease. "Small towns are like that. We're nosy, but we take care of our own. By taking Nathan's job, you're one of us now." "I've been here a day," Ellen pointed out. "You're at Brooks Haven," Clara said, as if that settled it. "The Brooks family's been Willow Creek's backbone since our granddad helped ranchers survive the Great Depression." Ellen absorbed this. "Nathan didn't mention that." "Nathan doesn't mention much," Clara said with fond exasperation. "But his hiring you. That's shifted how people see you. You're not Thornton's reject, you're the Professor Nathan Brooks trusts." The instant redefinition was both comforting and daunting. "Why did he offer me this job?" Ellen asked. "Is he always this generous?" Clara stopped folding and met her eyes. Nathan's fair, decent, but not charitable out of pity. If he offered you that job, it's because he believes you're right for it. Ready? Nathan's voice called from downstairs. Coming, Ellen replied, zipping her suitcase. Clara hugged her impulsively. Book clubs every third Thursday. I'll pick you up and you can crash here after. Nathan won't mind. Our meetings get rowdy with wine. The warmth of Clara's inclusion brought tears to Ellen's eyes. Thank you, she said, for everything. Oh, honey, Clara said, squeezing her shoulder. This is just the start. Ellen's first week at Brooks Haven Ranch was a whirlwind. The office, a cramped room off the main house, was a testament to Mike's chaotic system. Overflowing filing cabinets, breeding records scrawled in mismatched notebooks, a dinosaur of a computer with files named like cryptic riddles. By day 5, Ellen had begun taming the mess, creating digital spreadsheets and a filing system that made sense. Nathan checked in occasionally, answering questions or delivering coffee, but gave her space to work. On her 9th morning, Ellen arrived to find Nathan frowning at a wall calendar covered in Mike's illegible notes. Trouble? She asked, setting down her bag. Cattle auction in Cody next Wednesday, he said. Completely forgot. Need to pick stock, arrange transport, get paperwork ready. Ellen studied the calendar, now recognizing Mike's scrawl. This should be in the system, she muttered, jotting a note on her tablet. I'll add it. How many head are you selling? Nathan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Ellen now knew signaled stress. That's the trick. Got to balance cash flow with herd growth. Show me the breeding records, Ellen suggested. I can help crunch the numbers. Nathan raised an eyebrow. You're a cattle expert now. I'm a data expert, she countered with a smile. And I've been reading those ranching books you left in the cabin. It's like academic research. Track variables, analyze outcomes, decide based on evidence. A spark of respect flickered in Nathan's eyes. All right, Professor. Let's see what you've got. He pulled folders from a cabinet, and for 2 hours they worked together, Ellen asking about bloodlines and market trends while Nathan explained ranching nuances. They settled on 18 animals to sell, balancing short-term profit with long-term goals. This is solid, Nathan said, studying Ellen's spreadsheet. Better than solid. Mike would have gone with his gut. Instinct matters, Ellen said. Data just sharpens it. Nathan's face broke into a rare grin. We might make a rancher out of you yet, Ellen Harper. The warmth in his green eyes sent a flutter through her chest. Just doing my job, she said, suddenly flustered. You're doing more, Nathan said quietly. And I'm grateful. The moment hung between them, charged with something unspoken. Nathan cleared his throat. Got to check the south fence line. Dinner at 6, Ellen nodded, relieved to fall back into routine. They'd started sharing dinners in the main house, Nathan proving a surprisingly adept cook, his elk chili a standout. Ellen had begun contributing dishes, stocking the cabin's kitchen with herbs and spices. These meals, filled with talk of books, ranching, or politics, or sometimes just easy silence, had become the highlight of her days. As Nathan left, Ellen stared at her spreadsheet, barely seeing it. The life taking shape here felt vivid, vital. In a week, she'd found purpose in her work, forged budding friendships with Clara and the book club, and grown to love Wyoming's rugged beauty. And Nathan, steady, solitary, yet unexpectedly kind, felt like the piece she hadn't known she was missing. His quiet strength, his loneliness echoing hers, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. Ellen shook herself. This was a 3-month gig, a chance to regroup. Falling for her boss would only muddy the waters. Still, as she resumed organizing records, she couldn't help wondering if Nathan Brooks might be more than a temporary haven, maybe a home. Part 7. The Heart of Willow Creek. May swept into Brooks Haven with wildflowers carpeting the meadows, in bursts of violet and gold. 3 weeks in, Ellen felt more at home than she ever had in her Chicago high-rise. Each morning, she woke to mountain views that stole her breath, worked in an office she transformed into a model of efficiency, and ended her days with a satisfying ache from both mental and physical labor. She'd even started helping with small ranch tasks, like mending fences. Today, though, was special. The Willow Creek Book Club meeting, her first real social outing in Wyoming. In her cabin's bathroom, Ellen studied her reflection. The woman looking back had more color in her cheeks, brighter eyes. Was it the crisp air, the ranch work, or something deeper? A knock interrupted her thoughts. Nathan stood on the porch, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Clara's here to take you," he said, nodding toward her SUV parked by the main house. "But first, I wanted to ask. Willow Creek's Pioneer Days are next weekend. Big deal around here, parade, barn dance, whole shebang. Been going since 1908. Thought you might want to go with me." Ellen's heart skipped. Like a date, Nathan's weathered face flushed. "Call it what you want. Just figured you'd enjoy seeing the town in its glory." Before Ellen could answer, Clara's horn blared. Nathan winced. "Think it over," he said, then added gruffly, "Have fun with the book ladies." He strode toward the barn, leaving Ellen smiling after him. "So," Clara said as they drove to town, "Nathan finally asked you to Pioneer Days." Ellen shot her a look. "You knew," Clara laughed. "Ellen, I knew he'd ask you 20 minutes after he met you. My brother's as subtle as a neon sign." "I don't get it," Ellen admitted. "We barely talk outside work. For Nathan Brooks, that's practically a love letter," Clara said dryly. "After Sarah died, he shut down, skipped town events, ignored every matchmaker in Willow Creek. You're the first person he's looked at twice." Ellen processed this as the bighorns rolled by. "Why me? Why not you?" Clara countered. "You're smart, resilient. You've turned his ranch operations around, and you love books but aren't afraid to get dirt under your nails." "Sounds like a catch to me." Ellen hesitated. "I'm only here temporarily." Clara's expression softened. "Life's temporary, Ellen. Doesn't mean it's not worth living." They pulled up to Lillian Carter's charming bungalow on Willow Creek's oak-lined Main Street, where laughter spilled from open windows. "Fair warning," Clara said as they approached, "they'll grill you about Nathan." "Small town, big curiosity." Ellen squared her shoulders. "I'm ready." The book club welcomed her like family. Besides Clara, Lillian, Monica, and Rachel, there were newcomers. Dr. Emily Nguyen, the town vet, Susan Miller, who ran a boutique, and Diane Foster, a retired history professor from Denver. "Clara says you're working miracles at Brooks Haven," Lillian said, handing Ellen a glass of Pinot Grigio. "Just organizing," Ellen demurred. "That's not the buzz," Monica teased. Heard Nathan smiled at the feed store. Nearly sent old Hank into shock. The discussion of Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence was lively, Ellen's academic insights earning enthusiastic nods. During a break, Rachel leaned in. "That guest lecture spot's still open. My seniors need help with the Scarlet Letter. Tuesday afternoon work." Ellen's heart lifted. "I'd love it." As the night wore on, talk turned to Nathan. "So," Diane said, topping off glasses, "has our silver-haired cowboy made his move?" Ellen blushed. "He asked me to Pioneer Days." The room erupted in cheers. "Knew it," Monica crowed. "Rachel, you owe me $20. You bet on this?" Ellen asked, half amused, half mortified. "Willow Creek pastime," Clara said unapologetically. Emily shared a story. "When I started my vet practice, Nathan brought in every animal on his ranch for checkups, paid upfront, and sent half the county my way. Never mentioned it. That's Nathan, Lillian agreed. Gruff exterior, heart of gold. Ellen sipped her wine, absorbing their stories. I'm only here for 3 months, she reminded them. Susan smirked. Plans change. I came for a summer job, met my husband at the diner and stayed. Same, Diane added. Stopped here en route to Oregon. Got roped into the Historical Society and never left. Is Willow Creek enchanted or something? Ellen asked skeptically. Not the town, Clara said softly. The right people at the right time. Ellen wasn't sold on fate, but she couldn't deny Nathan's kindness had opened doors she'd never expected. So you'll go to Pioneer Days with him, Lillian pressed. Ellen smiled. Yes, I think I will. Part 8, Teaching and Tensions. Tuesday's sun streamed into Willow Creek High's English classroom as Ellen wrapped up her guest lecture on the Scarlet Letter. Hawthorne's not just telling a story of sin, she told the 25 attentive seniors. He's using the Puritan setting to explore how societal rules bind Hester, Dimsdale, and Pearl in ways they can't escape. A student, Mia, raised her hand. If Hester had left with Pearl, could they have been free elsewhere? Ellen smiled. Maybe, but Hawthorne's showing how duty, shame, and economic limits trap them. Leaving wasn't simple, it could mean destitution. That's grim, a boy Ethan muttered. It is, Ellen agreed. But it helps us see our own choices in context, choices they didn't have. As the bell rang, students lingered with questions, rekindling Ellen's love for teaching. Rachel Torres appeared. You had seniors staying after class. A miracle, she said. Ellen gathered her notes, glowing. They're sharp kids. We need more of this, Rachel said. Our AP English teacher's taking maternity leave in September. It's just for the fall, but you'd be perfect. Ellen froze. I don't have a Wyoming license. We can get you a temporary certification, Rachel said. The pay's not college level, but I'll think about it, Ellen said cautiously. My deal with Nathan ends in July. Driving the ranch truck back to Brookshaven, Ellen's mind buzzed. September was 4 months away. Could she stay in Willow Creek, find her own place, build a life here? And what about Nathan? Their shared dinners and cautious conversations held a growing spark, but they kept a careful distance. What would staying mean for them? Lost in thought, she nearly missed the truck parked by her cabin, James Thornton's. Her stomach clenched as she parked beside Nathan's house instead. Nathan emerged from the barn, his face darkening at the sight of James's vehicle. Thornton's here for you, he said, wiping his hands. Told him to wait by the cabin. Want me to run him off? No, Ellen said, steeling herself. I'll hear him out. But stay close, Nathan's eyes softened. I'm right here. James stood on her porch, hat in hand, looking uneasy. Ellen, he said as she approached. You look good, James, she replied coolly. What do you want? He twisted his hat. I came to apologize. What I said at the depot was wrong. Ellen studied him, surprised by his remorse. It was. I've been thinking, he went on, about what I need. I made a mistake. You're smart, refined, the kind of woman I want. Realization hit. What happened to the younger wife you wanted? James flushed. It's been tough finding someone right. So I'm good enough now because you're out of options. Ellen's voice sharpened. That's not, James sighed. I'm trying to fix things. Our letters were good. We could try again. No, Ellen said firmly, surprising herself. A month ago she might have wavered, desperate for stability. Now she was different. No, she repeated gently. You hurt me, James, but you did me a favor. If you'd kept your promise, I wouldn't have found. She gestured at the ranch, the mountains, the life she was carving out. James's face hardened. Found what? A job as Brooks' secretary. You think that's better than being my wife? Yes, Ellen said. Here I'm valued for me, not what you want me to be. It's him, isn't it? James snapped. You're with Brooks. Ellen's cheeks burned. That's none of your business. Please leave. James hesitated, then muttered about her foolishness and drove off, dust trailing his truck. Ellen stayed on the porch, shaken not by regret but by James's words echoing her own fears. Was she dreaming too big, assuming she belonged here? You okay? Nathan approached, concern in his eyes. Yes, she said, his presence grounding her. James apologized and asked for another chance. I said no. Nathan's face stayed neutral. What else? I told him I found something better here. A flicker of something hope crossed Nathan's eyes. He stepped closer, then stopped. Auction paperwork's ready to review, he said abruptly. Ellen's heart sank. Another moment, another retreat. I'll check it after dinner, she promised. Nathan nodded, heading for the barn. Got fences to fix before dark. As he walked away, Ellen wondered how long they could keep dodging the pull between them. Part 9, A Shift in the Air. By mid-June, Ellen's life at Brooks Haven felt like it could be permanent. At Pioneer Days, Nathan had taken her hand during the fireworks, a small gesture that felt seismic. The cautious distance between them began to erode, replaced by long talks on the porch as the mountains turned indigo at dusk. One warm evening, as Ellen graded papers from her second guest lecture, Nathan knocked, holding a leather-bound book. Found this in Dad's study, he said, offering it. Thought you'd like it more than it gathering dust. Ellen's breath caught at the title, a first edition of Annie Proulx's Close Range, Wyoming Stories. Nathan, this is priceless. Not giving it away, he said, eyes crinkling. Giving it to you. The distinction warmed her. Thank you, she said. It's one of my favorites. I know, Nathan replied. You mentioned it at Clara's that first night. That he'd remembered such a detail made her heart race. Want some iced tea? I just made a batch. Nathan nodded, stepping inside. He studied the cabin, now alive with Ellen's touches. Wildflowers in a mason jar, Clara's quilt on the sofa, books everywhere. Place looks different, he said, accepting a glass. Good or bad? Good, he said firmly. Like it's got a soul now. They settled on the sofa, the air thick with awareness. July 15th is coming, Nathan said, breaking the silence. Ellen's stomach tightened, the end of their deal 6 weeks away. It is. Been thinking about that, he said, eyes on his glass. Me too, Ellen admitted. Rachel mentioned the teaching job for fall. You taking it? The question carried weight. Ellen took a breath. I'm thinking about it. It'd mean renting a place in town, figuring things out. Or, Nathan said, voice low, you could stay here. Ellen's heart stuttered. In the cabin, Nathan set down his glass and stood, moving to the window where the mountains glowed. I'm bad at this, Ellen, saying what I feel, taking chances. Ellen joined him, close but not touching. I'm not great at it either. After everything fell apart, I shut down. James's letters felt like a way back to being wanted. Nathan turned, his face raw. I want you, Ellen. Not just for the work, though you've revolutionized this place. For you, how you see the world, how you make me see it. Tears pricked Ellen's eyes. Nathan, his phone rang, shattering the moment. He grimaced, checking it. Hayes Ranch. Gotta take this. As he answered, his face shifted to rancher mode. Heifer's in trouble, he said, heading for the door. Could be a long night. Ellen nodded, disappointment sharp. Nathan paused, intensity in his eyes. This isn't over, Ellen. We'll finish this talk even if it's 2 a.m. Then he was gone, truck roaring down the drive. Unable to sit still, Ellen grabbed a lantern and walked to the pond behind the cabin. The night smelled of sage and pine, crickets singing to her racing thoughts. She opened the Proulx book, finding an inscription. To Nathan, may you find someone to share these plains with. Love, Dad. Dated 1980, it tightened her throat. How long had Nathan's father hoped for his son's happiness? Settling by the pond, Ellen let herself dream, not desperate plans but hopeful ones. Teaching, modernizing the ranch, maybe writing that book on Wyoming's literary landscapes. And Nathan, always Nathan, his steadiness, his tenderness, seeing her when others hadn't. An hour later, headlights cut the dark. Nathan's truck pulled up, and he stepped out, puzzled. False alarm, he called, spotting her by the pond. Hayes' kid panicked, normal labor, not a crisis. Relief flooded Ellen. So no all-nighter. He shook his head, meeting her on the path. His eyes fell to the book. You saw the inscription. I did, Ellen said. When did he give it to you? 21st birthday, Nathan said, tracing the spine. Dad loved Proulx. Said she got Wyoming soul. Did you? Ellen asked. Find someone to share your plains. Nathan's face softened in the moonlight. Thought I had with Sarah. After she was gone, I figured that was it. Then you stepped off that bus and turned my world upside down. Ellen smiled. Your dad would approve of the book finding its purpose. He'd have loved you, Nathan said. Would have debated books with you while Mom and I checked the herd. The casual inclusion in his family warmed her. I wish I'd met them. Me too, Nathan said. But Clara's meddling enough. She called on my way back, asking if I'd proposed yet. Book club's got a betting pool, Ellen laughed. They are relentless. Nathan's eyes held hers, serious. So where were we? Ellen stepped closer. You were asking me to stay. Not just as your manager, partner, Nathan said. Companion. Wife someday, if you'd consider it. Ellen studied him, this man who'd seen her at her lowest and found something worth cherishing. I came to Wyoming for security, she said. James's letters seemed practical, not passionate. Now I see I was aiming too low. I needed a home, purpose, possibility. Hope lit Nathan's eyes. Can you find that here with me? I already have, Ellen said. These weeks, I'm more myself than ever. The work, the town, you, us, Nathan asked, taking her hand. Ellen smiled. The best part. Nathan brushed a strand of hair from her face. So you'll stay. Not just till July, not just for teaching. With me, yes, Ellen said, the word heavy with promise. Nathan's smile transformed him. As my manager, Ellen laughed. Among other things. Partner, yes. Companion, absolutely. Wife someday. Ask me right when you're ready, she added, touching his cheek. Nathan chuckled. Fair enough, he grew serious. No rush, Ellen. We've got time. Headlights interrupted them, Clara's SUV. Speaking of meddlers, Nathan muttered as Clara hopped out, picnic basket in hand. Well, well, she called, feigning innocence. Fancy finding you two up at midnight. Just dropping off cornbread for breakfast. She eyed their clasped hands with delight. But I'm clearly interrupting. Ellen shared a look with Nathan. Your timing's perfect, she said. We were discussing my future here. Clara's eyes widened. Nathan slid an arm around Ellen. She's staying. For good, Clara's squeal echoed across the ranch. I knew it. Lillian owes me $50. I thought you skipped the betting, Ellen teased. First round, Clara grinned. Second was fair game. She hugged them both, then insisted on Sunday dinner with the book club to celebrate. After more hugs and promises, Clara drove off, honking cheerfully. "That's just the start," Nathan warned. "Town'll know by dawn." Ellen leaned into him, laughing. "I'd expect nothing less." She turned serious. "You sure about this, Nathan?" "I'm still that 42-year-old professor starting over." Nathan cupped her face. "And I'm a 52-year-old widower who hid from life for 8 years. Age is nothing. It's who we are together, what we build." His kiss was tentative, then deepening, as Ellen wrapped her arms around him. "Not how I planned this," he murmured. "Wouldn't change it," Ellen replied. "It's ours." Part 10, A New Life. October arrived, painting the aspens around Brooks Haven in fiery gold and crimson. Ellen and Nathan's wedding day dawned crisp and clear, ideal for the intimate ceremony planned at the ranch, in the cabin that had been Ellen's first Wyoming home. Ellen stood before the mirror as Clara fastened her mother's pearl necklace, her something borrowed. Ellen's simple cream gown complemented her auburn hair, now woven with tiny white wildflowers. "You're radiant," Clara said, stepping back. Ellen took a shaky breath. 6 months ago, I was a jobless professor answering a stranger's ad. Now you're marrying my brother, teaching kids who adore you and reinventing ranching, Clara said. "Not bad for someone James Thornton called too old." Lillian peeked in. "Nathan's going to lose it when he sees you." "Everything set?" Ellen asked. "Justice of the peace is here, guests are in the garden, and Nathan's pacing like a nervous colt by the flower arch," Lillian said. Ellen smiled, picturing steady Nathan rattled. The garden between the main house and cabin was a vision of fall blooms, fairy lights, and 50 chairs for their guests. Dr. Nguyen, Emily's father, walked Ellen down the aisle. Nathan waited under an arch of golden aspen and red roses, his silver hair catching the light, his charcoal suit making his green eyes vivid. His face lit with joy as he saw her, bringing tears to Ellen's eyes. Their vows were heartfelt, Nathan's surprisingly lyrical, Ellen's simple but profound. As they exchanged rings, Ellen spotted James Thornton in the back with his new fiancée, Laura Grant, a 55-year-old bank manager. He nodded slightly, a gesture of peace. The justice of the peace concluded, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Nathan's kiss was gentle, full of promise. The reception in the barn featured a local bluegrass band, with Ellen and Nathan's first dance to Emmylou Harris's "If I Needed You," drawing sighs from the crowd. Later, on the barn's porch, Ellen caught her breath after a lively dance with Dr. Nguyen. "Mrs. Brooks," James Thornton said, approaching with champagne. Ellen braced herself. "Mr. Thornton," he stepped forward, earnest. "I owe you a real apology, not that half-baked one months ago." Ellen saw his sincerity. "It's past, James. It worked out for the best. Because of my mistake," he said wryly. "I didn't know what I needed. None of us did," Ellen said. "I wanted security, not love." "You wanted youth but found happiness with Laura," he nodded. "She's wise like you," he raised his glass. "To seeing true beauty," Ellen clinked hers. "To that." Nathan joined her, arm around her waist. "All good, perfect," Ellen said, leaning into him. "Just closing a chapter," he kissed her temple. "Ready for the next, Mrs. Brooks," the name thrilled her. "More than ready, Mr. Brooks." They watched the sunset gild the mountains, music and laughter spilling from the barn, their community, their family. "Dad's inscription," Nathan said, "about sharing these plains." He'd be proud of you," Ellen said. "For seeing me when others didn't." "I saw you," Nathan said, turning her to him. "At the depot, broken but strong, beautiful because of your years, your heart." Their kiss under the twilight sealed it. Ellen thought of the rejection that had seemed like her end, now her beginning. James Thornton had dismissed her for her age, blind to the beauty of resilience, wisdom, and spirit. In Nathan Brooks' arms, Ellen Harper Brooks had found not just love, but herself, wholly seen, wholly cherished, in a Wyoming home where silver hair shone as bright as the mountain peaks. Epilogue, a year of roots and dreams. The October breeze carried the sharp tang of pine and the faint smoke of distant bonfires as Ellen Harper Brooks stood at the edge of Brooks Haven Ranch's north pasture, her breath visible in the crisp Wyoming morning. A year had passed since her wedding to Nathan Brooks, and the mountains that once felt like distant sentinels now seemed like old friends, their snow-dusted peaks framing a life she'd never dared imagine. At 43, Ellen was no longer the desperate professor who'd stepped off a Greyhound bus in Willow Creek, rejected and adrift. She was a teacher, a rancher's wife, a pillar of a community that had claimed her as its own, and, most importantly, a woman who had found her place in the world. The ranch hummed with activity as the fall cattle drive loomed, a Wyoming tradition that marked the shift from summer's ease to winter's demands. Ellen adjusted her denim jacket, Nathan's, borrowed from the mudroom because hers was still drying after a muddy morning feeding calves, and surveyed the herd grazing in the meadow. Her role at Brooks Haven had expanded far beyond the office. While she still managed the ranch's books with a professor's precision, she'd taken to ranch work with a zeal that surprised even herself. She wasn't roping steers yet, but she could mend a fence, drive a tractor, and spot a limping heifer faster than some of Nathan's seasoned hands. "Mrs. Brooks," a voice called from the corral, pulling her from her thoughts. Mia Thompson, one of her AP English students, waved enthusiastically, her red braid bouncing as she led a horse toward the barn. Mia had joined the ranch's new educational program, a brainchild of Ellen's that combined hands-on ranching with lessons on sustainable agriculture and Wyoming's history. The program, launched in the spring, had drawn students from Willow Creek High, a few curious tourists, and even a community college professor from Cody. It was a modest start, weekend workshops and school field trips, but it had already boosted the ranch's income and cemented Ellen's reputation as an innovator. "Morning, Mia," Ellen called back, striding toward the corral. "You ready for the cattle drive next week?" Mia grinned, patting her horse's flank. "Born ready." "Mr. Brooks says I might get to help with the stragglers." Ellen raised an eyebrow, amused. "Nathan's trusting you with stragglers." "That's high praise." Mia beamed, then hesitated. Mrs. Brooks, about that scarlet letter essay. Can I get an extension?" "The ranch work's been intense." Ellen suppressed a smile. "One day, Mia. But I expect it on my desk by Wednesday, no excuses." Mia nodded, relieved, and trotted off to join the other students mucking stalls. Ellen's teaching career had flourished since she accepted the fall semester position at Willow Creek High. When the AP English teacher extended her maternity leave, Rachel Torres had begged Ellen to stay on through the spring, and she'd agreed, securing a temporary Wyoming teaching certification with Rachel's help. The classroom had rekindled her passion, her lectures on Hawthorne, Wharton, and Proulx sparking debates that left her students buzzing. She'd even started a literary club, where Mia and others dissected novels over coffee at Dolly's Diner, a nod to the town's book club that had first welcomed her. Back at the main house, Ellen found Nathan in the kitchen, pouring coffee into a thermos. His silver hair was tousled from an early morning checking fences, and his green eyes crinkled as he spotted her. "You're up early for a Sunday," he said, handing her a mug. "Thought you'd sleep in after grading all those essays." Ellen took the coffee, savoring its warmth. "Couldn't resist the sunrise." Besides, Mia's already out there charming the horses. Nathan chuckled. That kid's got ranching in her blood. You sure you didn't recruit her to skip her homework? Ellen swatted his arm playfully. I'm a strict teacher, thank you very much. Their banter was interrupted by the crunch of tires on gravel. Clara's blue SUV pulled up, and she hopped out, a basket of her famous rosemary scones in hand. Morning, lovebirds, she called, striding into the kitchen with her usual energy. I come bearing breakfast and news, Nathan groaned good-naturedly. What now, Clara? Another book club betting pool, Clara smirked, setting the basket on the counter. Not this time, big brother. The Willow Creek Chronicle wants to do a follow-up on Ellen's educational program. Monica says it's the talk of the county, especially after that group from Cody signed up for your winter workshop. Ellen's eyes widened. A follow-up. They already did a feature on me last year. You're a local celebrity, Clara teased, pouring herself coffee. The professor who turned a mail-order bride fiasco into a ranching revolution. Monica's calling it from rejection to redemption. Ellen groaned, but Nathan squeezed her shoulder, his touch grounding. She's not wrong, he said softly. You've changed this place, Ellen. And not just the ranch. His words carried the weight of their shared history, the bus depot, the diner, the slow unfolding of trust that had led them here. Clara, never one to miss a cue, changed the subject. Speaking of changes, I heard James Thornton and Laura Grant are getting married next month. Word is, he's finally stopped grumbling about city women and started appreciating Laura's business sense. Ellen smiled, unsurprised. James had sent a polite note after their wedding, wishing her well, and she'd seen him and Laura at the Pioneer Days festival, looking content. Good for them, she said. Everyone deserves their shot at happiness. The morning passed in a blur of preparations for the cattle drive. Ellen and Nathan worked side by side, checking gear and reviewing the route with the seasonal hands, a tight-knit crew who'd warmed to Ellen's quiet competence. By noon they took a break on the porch, the mountains glowing under a high autumn sun. Nathan stretched, his hand finding hers. You ever think about that day at the depot? He asked, his voice low. How it could have gone differently. Ellen leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. All the time. If James hadn't walked away, I wouldn't be here. With you. With this life. Nathan kissed her temple. His loss. My gain, Ellen laughed, but her throat tightened. The past year had been a whirlwind of growth, teaching, ranching, building a home with Nathan, but it hadn't been without challenges. A late spring blizzard had tested the ranch's resources, and Ellen had faced skepticism from a few old-school ranchers who doubted a city professor could handle Wyoming's harsh realities. Yet she'd proven them wrong, her spreadsheets saving the ranch thousands during the summer drought, her workshops drawing praise from local educators. And through it all, Nathan had been her rock, his faith in her unwavering. Clara's planning a big dinner after the cattle drive, Nathan said, breaking her reverie. Says the book club wants to celebrate your first year in Willow Creek, Ellen grinned. Those women never miss a chance to meddle. They're family, Nathan said, his tone warm. Like it or not, you're stuck with them. And me? Ellen turned to face him, her hazel eyes meeting his green ones. Stuck with you sounds pretty perfect. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the ranch, Ellen felt a quiet certainty settle in her chest. Willow Creek wasn't just a place, it was a promise, a tapestry of hard-won joys and unexpected graces. The rejection that had once broken her had become the cornerstone of her new life, a reminder that true beauty lay not in youth or perfection, but in resilience, in love, in the courage to start over. With Nathan's hand in hers, the mountains standing sentinel, and a community that had embraced her silver hair and all. Ellen Harper Brooks knew she was exactly where she belonged. The future stretched before them, vast as the Wyoming sky, new challenges, new dreams, and the enduring strength of a love that had seen her, truly seen her, when the world had looked away. As the first stars blinked to life above Brooks Haven, Ellen smiled, ready for whatever came next in this chapter, their chapter, written in the dust and dreams of Willow Creek.